President Nicolás Maduro announced the construction and launch of Venezuela's first mini-space satellite. Brazil's Human Rights Minister Macaé Evaristo strongly condemned the state police operation that killed at least 121 people in a favela in Rio de Janeiro. And the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit kicked off in South Korea after Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping agreed on measures to ease trade tensions. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin with the information. After Hurricane Melissa hit eastern Cuba, solidarity flooded the Caribbean island. A campaign promoted by youth organizations has mobilized hundreds of people who are not only donating material goods, but also messages of hope from several brother nations. Our colleague Isabel Díaz gives us more details.
Así comienza la jornada en varias instituciones.
This is how the day begins in several institutions and centers in Havana, where teenagers and university students organize donations for those affected by Hurricane Melissa after it struck the east of the country.
Nosotros como jóvenes nos estamos sumando
We as young people are joining the effort to collect donations to help those vulnerable provinces in the east of the country that are facing a difficult situation after the cyclone passed through.
pasando por una situación complicada debido al ciclón Melissa.
En esta campaña de solidaridad,
In this solidarity campaign, culture embraces difficult times, where the artistic vanguard joins these initiatives of the Cuban people.
Ya estamos en función como la vez anterior y como haremos siempre.
We are already working, as we did last time, and as we will always do, to collect donations of anything that may be useful to our brothers in the East, which could be anything.
También estamos planificando algunos conciertos.
We are also holding concerts dedicated to them, and many friends have joined us, with others constantly calling us to say they also want to be part of these initiatives being carried out by the association that always wants to belong, in the most useful way possible, to all these processes.
Pertenecer de la manera más útil a todos los procesos.
gestos de apoyo que se suman a
These
donaciones
gestures of support are in addition to donations from other places, with essential resources that have begun to arrive from neighboring countries, such as Venezuela.
Hoy Venezuela viene a un mensaje de solidaridad, de apoyo.
Venezuela comes with a message of solidarity, support, and more than solidarity and support, to get involved in what has to do with the well-being of the Cuban people, who are today affected by a natural disaster.
Igualmente, hemos transmitido al gobierno cubano, de parte del presidente Nicolás Maduro Moro, a su presidente.
We have also conveyed to the Cuban government, on behalf of President Maduro, to the President of Cuba, and Army General Raul Castro, we have conveyed a message of solidarity and congratulations for the resounding success achieved yesterday at the United Nations Assembly.
Ayer, en el seno de la Asamblea de las Naciones Unidas.
son momentos de acompañamiento, apoyo y
These are
hermandad.
times for solidarity, support, and brotherhood toward those affected by Hurricane Melissa in eastern Cuba.
Con cámara de José Hierro, Isabel Díaz González, teleSUR, La Habana.
And we go now to Venezuela as President Nicolás Maduro announced the construction and launch of the country's first mini-space satellite. During the closing of the first International Space Congress, the Venezuelan president expressed the need to accelerate the activation and launch of the new Gran Cacique Huaycaipuro communication satellite in coordination with the People's Republic of China. He indicated that this is a priority task that must be addressed with determination and completed promptly with a view to strengthening technological sovereignty and strategic cooperation between the nations. This announcement reaffirms the commitment to sovereign technological advancements supported by friendly countries within the framework of international cooperation that promotes Venezuelan airspace development.
También estoy de acuerdo que nos planteemos una meta.
I also agree that we set ourselves a goal, one goal, the Military Scientific Council.
La universidad, la gran misión, la meta de construir.
La Valles, the university, the transmission, the goal of building for now a Venezuelan mini satellite.
Sería el primer mini satélite venezolano que lanzaríamos al espacio.
That would be the first mini satellite that we would launch into space. All efforts approved to go in search of the first Venezuelan search of the first Venezuelan mini satellite.
Venezolano. Es una idea maravillosa.
It is a wonderful idea, and from the mini we will move on to the maximum.
Más adelante pasaremos al maxi.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. In the Venezuelan capital, hundreds of citizens took to the streets to protest against the actions of the U.S. empire, which threatens the sovereignty and peace of the nation. Our correspondent Andrea Romero with the details.
En un ambiente de alegría y tranquilidad, caraqueños.
In an atmosphere of joy and tranquility, the people of Caracas showed that in the face of the false narratives used by the United States to attack Venezuela, the people here remain united and ready to defend their territory.
In the face of the threats and false flag operations they want to impose here, where they are looking for an incident and creating conditions based on what they have exposed in a narrative, as if this were a narco state. We are on alert. We are on alert because simply the Venezuelan people are united in the face of this threat. It is a threat that for us is a criminal matter, and that without a doubt is a criminal threat.
Los presentes asistieron a la movilización.
Those present attended the demonstration motivated by the country's historical legacy of defending peace and sovereignty.
Today we are marching here for peace in Venezuela, for peace in Latin America, for peace in the world, for peace in our country, Venezuela, just as our liberator Simon Bolivar fought to free Latin Americans from the slavery imposed on them by the Spaniards. Today we fight for our peace and our freedom.
Luchamos por nuestra paz y por nuestra libertad.
We are united because we are a people who support our country, and we feel united because we are a people of liberators.
Ciudadanos expresaron su deseo de evitar.
Citizens expressed their desire to avoid war and show those outside the country who want to promote conflict that Venezuela remains firm.
I am here because I do not want war. I want peace, and to tell Carla that she is a toady of the empire, that there is a people here who will go out to defend their country because we are patriots at heart.
Con unidad y determinación, el
With
pueblo
unity and determination, the Venezuelan people reaffirm their rejection of foreign interference and their commitment to preserving peace and national sovereignty.
Desde Caracas, en la Cámara de Marcos da Silva para teleSUR, Andrea Romero.
And Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum demanded respect for the country's sovereignty after recent attacks by U.S. military forces against 4 boats allegedly transporting drugs, which left at least 14 people dead. Antonio Aranda also with the details.
Claudia Sheinbaum demandó a Estados Unidos
Claudia Sheinbaum demanded that the United States maintain the cooperation agreement to prevent further attacks on vessels such as the recent one against 4 boats, allegedly transporting drugs across the Mexican Pacific.
Today, the Secretary of the Navy is meeting with a counterpart from the Coast Guard, and then we are also looking to have a meeting with South Command, which is responsible for these activities. Our objective is to continue developing the plan we have been working on, which has to do with information.
La mandataria detalló que Estados Unidos
The
puede
president explained that the United States can provide information to Mexico to detention suspicious vessels near its coastal strip without the need to kill people.
matar personas.
And these meetings are being sought so that in the case of the geographical location that has to do with Mexico, the operations that we were previously doing, which is the capture of these vessels, can continue.
Respecto al posible sobreviviente del ataque que
Regarding the possible survivor of the attack that left 14 people dead, he indicated that the international protocol for the care of shipwrecked people is being followed.
From the Marina, the Admiral explained to us today, it has to remain for 96 hours, as required by international rules when searching for a castaway, and it is doing so in accordance with international law.
Los ataques de Estados Unidos a embarcaciones que
United States attacks on vessels allegedly transporting drugs from the Caribbean and the Pacific have resulted in 61 killings in the last 2 months.
una verdadera ofensiva militar.
A real military offensive under the guise of the anti-drug fight in the region that has a political background, says this expert.
Within the logic of expansion and consolidation of domination processes that Washington has traditionally had for the Latin American region, the context of what is currently happening in the Caribbean is mainly aimed at harassing Venezuela in order to provoke a regime change.
Estados Unidos viola los derechos humanos con
The United States violates human rights with these attacks on boats, and once again ignores its own responsibility in drug trafficking, says the expert.
These are clearly extrajudicial executions. The United States has not presented any evidence other than these images. Beyond direct murder, it would have to do much more within its borders, and in the context of its institutionality, and also in the context of its financial organizations, to identify precisely what is at the heart of drug consumption and drug trafficking within its borders.
Para los especialistas, las acciones de Estados Unidos
For experts, the actions of the United States have, among other objectives, the erosion of the strongest bloc of the Latin American left, under the pretext of combating drug trafficking.
Antonio Aranda, Telesur, Ciudad de México. Claudia Sheinbaum,
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, for the first time pronounced himself on the U.S. airstrikes against vessels in the Caribbean and the Pacific, stating that they violate international human rights law. The UN High Commissioner reported that the attacks carried out by the U.S. armed forces since early September of 2025, perpetrated under the justification of the war on drugs, constitute a violation of international law. In this regard, Volker Turk urged the United States to stop such attacks and take all necessary measures to prevent the extrajudicial executions of people on board these vessels, regardless of their alleged crimes. In addition, Turk emphasized that according to information provided by U.S. authorities, none of these individuals on the target vessels posed an imminent threat to others or justified the use of lethal force.
UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has said that airstrikes by the United States of America on boats in the Caribbean and in the Pacific violate international human rights law. Over 60 people have reportedly been killed in a continuing series of attacks carried out by U.S. armed forces against boats in the Caribbean and the Pacific since early September, in circumstances that the UN Human Rights Chief says find no justification in international law. These attacks and their mounting human cost are unacceptable. The U.S. must halt such attacks and take all measures necessary to prevent the extrajudicial killing of people aboard these boats, whatever the criminal conduct alleged against them.
We have a second short break coming up now, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow the page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. Brazil's Human Rights Minister, Macaé Evaristo, strongly condemned the state police operation that killed at least 121 people in a favela in Rio de Janeiro. Evaristo visited Thursday the Peña and Alamano complexes where the so-called contention operation carried out on the orders of far-right state governor Claudio Castro took place. In this context, the government officials stated that the operation was an indescribable horror and that public safety must be linked to education and health policies. Right-wing governors have supported the Rio de Janeiro operation, but however, national and international human rights organizations have called for a thorough investigation to clarify the events of what is being called the most aggressive police operation in the history of the favela.
It is a tragedy. It is horrific. It is abominable. People cannot have these kinds of political leaders. We have to fight organized crime with intelligence, as this country has already shown that it can be done, by confiscating drugs, confiscating money, capturing the leaders of the operations, using more intelligence.
Apreendendo dinheiro, pegando os cabeças das operações, usando mais inteligência.
We have policy proposals for this. We have a proposal for public security coordination that is very important. Country this Brazil cannot be that everyone does whatever they want without planning. We know that things are connected. We must respect the state.
Sem planejamento. A gente sabe que as coisas elas são interligadas. Ela não diz respeito apenas estado. Tem que ter uma articulação.
There has to be a federal coordination so that we can effectively crush organized crime and not make our impoverished populations, our peripheral populations, pay with their lives, pay for a series of rights that are denied to these communities.
Paguem com as suas vidas. Paguem por uma série de negação de.
On Wednesday, Bolivia's elected President Rodrigo Paz traveled to the United States to reestablish diplomatic relations with Washington and to seek assistance from international credit agencies to overcome the economic situation. The center-right leader, who will take office on November 8th, plans to hold meetings in Washington with representatives of Donald Trump's administration, as well as with executives from the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. Paz promised that his first measures would focus on resolving the shortage of foreign currency in the financial system and the domestic fuel shortage in a context where year-on-year inflation in September exceeded 23%. In other news, leaders of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, kicked off a summit in South Korea after Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping agreed on measures to ease trade tensions. The president of the 21 countries of Asia and the Pacific Rim opened their annual summit on Friday to discuss economic cooperation and address common challenges. The two-day event is being held in the South Korean city of Yeongju and will focus on future agreements to be established after the meeting between the U.S. president and the leader of the Asian giant. According to experts, since its creation in 1989, APEC has represented more than half of world trade, and its models of free and reciprocal investment not only improve the economic situation of the countries in the region, but also benefit all countries that trade with the participants.
We all stand at a critical turning point amid a rapidly shifting international order. The free trade system is undergoing turbulent change, deepening global economic uncertainty and weakening the momentum for trade and investment. The technological revolution, represented by artificial intelligence, presents us with an unprecedented crisis and at the same time, an unprecedented opportunity. It is not an easy challenge, but I believe that APEC's journey holds the answers to overcoming today's crisis. Cooperation and solidarity are the surest path that can lead us toward a better future. Since each nation's interests are at stake, it is clear that we cannot always share the same position. However, before the ultimate goal of achieving shared prosperity through unity, we can and must stand together.
And from Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping participated in this 32nd APEC Economics Leaders Meeting held in Jeonju, South Korea. This forum brings together the major Pacific economies with the aim of strengthening regional cooperation, promoting free trade, and fostering sustainable development. Our correspondent Bruno Falsi brings us more details.
Hello to the workers of teleSUR and to the audience following us in this transmission. I'm here again in the capital of China, in Beijing, to report that the President Xi Jinping attended the first session of the 32 Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit in South Korea. where he delivered an important speech entitled Building an Inclusive and Open Asia-Pacific Economy for All. In his address, Xi Jinping highlighted APEC's historical role in driving global development and stressed that in the face of growing international uncertainties, countries must grow together to maintain economic stability and the well-being of their people. The Chinese leader, Xi Jinping, presented 5 proposals. The first one was strengthening the multilateral trading system led by the World Trade Organization. The second one is promoting the regional economic openness. The third one, protecting stability of industrial and supply chains. The fourth one, promoting digital and green transformation of trade. And for the last one, the fifth one, fostering inclusive development that benefits all nations. Xi Jinping go further and reaffirmed China's commitment to high-level opening and cooperation through the Belt and the Road Initiative, stressing that China's modernization will offer new opportunities for the entire region. This is Bruno Falsi, and we go back now to the studio in La Habana, Cuba.
Moving on to other topics, Iranian Foreign Minister Sayed Abbas Araghchi has issued a warning in response to Washington's announcement to resume nuclear weapons testing. In a statement issued on Thursday, Araghchi slammed Washington for rebranding its Department of Defense to Department of War and denounced the U.S. as a nuclear-armed bully. He also condemned the U.S. for its long-standing criticism of Iran's nuclear program while simultaneously resuming its own atomic weapons tests, actions he claims violate international law. Araghchi further urged the global community to unite in holding the U.S. accountable for normalizing the proliferation of nuclear weapons, calling the announcement of renewed testing a regressive and irresponsible move. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.